This tutorial is about multiplying and dividing any number, whole number or fraction, by powers of 10. So in other words, taking any number and multiplying it by 10, 100 or 1,000 or 10,000, etc., or dividing by 10, 100, 1,000, etc. So we're talking about things that might look a bit like this: 0.07 times 10, 30.6 times 100, 4.79 divided by 100, and so on. That's the kind of thing we're looking at. And as you'll see, they're really easy to do if it's explained properly to you. Now, we're going to start off with something quite simple, which is 7 times 10. Now, I am pretty sure that many of you will have been taught, somebody would have said to you somewhere along the way, when you multiply by 10, just add a 0. Put up your hand if you've heard that before. Just add a 0. So let's do that. 7. Let's add a 0. What is 7 plus 0? Oh dear, it doesn't work, does it? Because you know that 7 plus 0 is 7. In fact, anything plus 0 stays the same. So, well, what did those people mean? They probably meant put a 0 on the right-hand side of the 7. But even that is a problem for me, and I'm going to explain to you why. So you guys would all agree that 7 times 10 is 70. And when people tell you just to add a 0 on the end, it looks like that. It looks like the 7 is getting bigger to the right. Compare that to this. 7 times 10 is 70. Do you see that the 7 actually moves to the left and a 0 comes in to take its place? So let's look at the two. 7 times 10 is 70, or 7 times 10 is 70. I'll repeat that. 7 times 10 is 70, or 7 times 10 is 70. Now, either you totally understand what I'm saying or you're a little bit confused. Let's bring in the decimal point. Good friend of mine, we don't use the decimal point enough. When we write a 7 on its own, if you've watched any of my other tutorials, you will know that any whole number has a decimal point right there, right next to the ones column. And we don't use the decimal point enough to understand number, but we're going to do that now. So when I write the number 7 down, I need to understand it is 7 ones, and there's a decimal point right next to it. That decimal point has a job. If you're not sure about this, watch my video called Understanding the Decimal Point. When we take that 7 and we make it 10 times bigger, in other words, we multiply by 10, 7 moves from the ones column to the tens column, and we have to put a 0 in to show that there's nothing left there. Now let's have a look at that again in a grid. Here we go. There's our ones column, tens column. At the moment, the number is just 7. We're going to multiply it by 10, which is making it 10 times bigger. The 7 is going to jump into the tens column. Now, if we take this grid away, it's going to look like the 7 is still in the ones column because it's still next to the decimal point. So we have to put a 0 in there. So it's not adding a 0. It's taking the number that you are multiplying by 10 and moving it one column to the left. Okay, now hopefully you didn't get any bad advice about dividing by 10, but it's just as easy, because when we divide something by 10, it becomes 10 times smaller. Here we go. So this time we're taking 7. We're not going to multiply by 10. We're going to be dividing by 10. We're going to make 7 10 times smaller. These columns here, you should know them: tens, ones, tenths. If you don't, check out my video called Decimal Place Value. Right, let's go. So the question is 7 divided by 10. There the 7 is next to the decimal point. You could put a 0 there actually. It doesn't matter. 7, it just shows there's nothing in the tens column. I know it looks like 70. It's not. It's just 7. That 7 needs to jump over the decimal point because it's just become 10 times smaller. And there it is. And adults often write things as 0.7 or 0.5 or 0.82 or whatever. It's not really okay for you at this level to do that. You really need to show that there's nothing in the ones column anymore. Used to be a 7 there, it's jumped over the decimal point. It's now in the tens column. There's nothing there. And it looks like that without the grid. With the grid, without the grid. Right, now we're going to go through a couple of examples, or more than a couple. I want you to listen very carefully. When we get to the end of these, you'll have a chance to reflect on your learning and then decide whether you want to watch this again or carry on with some examples. Okay, 2.4 times 10. Now, the first thing we need to do is decide where the 2 and the 4 are placed on our grid. They're right there, and I don't think you would have struggled with that. 2.4, 2.4. That number is multiplied by 10. So the 2 needs to get 10 times bigger, and the 4 needs to get 10 times bigger. So let's have a look. Let's do the 2 first. The 2 needs to jump over there. Here we go. The 4 needs to jump to the left. Here we go. And we're left with 24 and the decimal point. You could put a 0 there if you felt like it. Did you have to? No. And the answer is 24. So it's just that good old normal number 24 that we've known for years. 24.0 is pretty much the same thing. And without the grid, it's like that. You could put another 0. 24.0. It's still 24. I know it looks big. Looks like 2,400, but it's just simply not. It's 24. We have another example here. 1.35 times 10. Now, easy. Where do these digits go? 1 point. Okay, each one of these digits has to become 10 times bigger because we're multiplying by 10. So this 1, which is 1, 1, has to jump there, so on. So here we go. There we go. 1 goes first. 3/10 jumps over the decimal point and becomes 3 ones. 5/100 jumps to the left and becomes 5/10. And we have 13.5 or 13.5. That's with the grid. That's without the grid. Right. 2.7 times 100. First thing we need to do is write the 2.7 down. And now we've multiplied by 100, not 10. Now multiplying something by 100, is that not the same as multiplying by 10 and then multiplying by 10 again? Isn't 100 just 10 by 10 times 10? Yes, it is. So the 2 and the 7 are both going to become 100 times bigger. Right. The 2 digit jumps from the ones column to the tens. It's now 10 times bigger. It jumps from the tens column to the hundreds column. It's now 100 times bigger. So we've done the 2. The 7 jumps over the decimal point. So it's now 7 ones. And now it jumps to the left again. It's now 7 tens. And we've done our job. But the only problem here, guys, is if we leave the grid off, we take this grid off, it's going to look like it's 27. And the answer is not 27, is it? You all know that we need to put a 0 in there to show that there's nothing in the ones column anymore. There used to be a 7, it's now moved. And you could stick a 0 in there, you could stick a 0 in there. Those two there are not necessary. You can put them in if you want, but you don't have to put them there. The answer 270 or 270.0. Yeah, we've got 4.032 times 1,000. Times 100. It's the same thing. 4.032, you need to put them in the right place. Every one of those digits is going to become 100 times bigger. There's a little something slightly different with this question, but we'll get to that. We'll start with a 4. 10 times bigger, 100 times bigger. Now, it looks like the next digit is the 0. Only problem is, when you make 0 100 times bigger, it is still 0. 0 times 10 is 0, times 100 is 0, times a gazillion is 0. So we can't take that 0 and make it jump if we're being mathematically correct. But you will notice that that is actually what it looks like. That 0 does look like it jumps 2 places. But I'm going to do it a different way, and I think you should understand. So now we're going to go to the 3. The 3 is going to smash the 0, and then it's going to jump again. It's going to end up there. The 2 is going to jump one column to the left from the hundredths, from the thousandths to the hundredths. And then it's going to jump to the tenths, and we end up with that. Now, if we took this grid away, our problem is that it would look like 43.2, and you've all already spotted it's not that, is it? There should be a 0 there, and so we put one in. Now, it sounds like I'm being a bit silly here. The 0 that was here has not jumped twice. It's just another 0. It's there to show that there's nothing there. Later on, as you get confident with these, you might make the 0 jump, but understand that it's not really the same 0. 403.2. 1.32 divided by 10. All right, now we're dividing. We're not multiplying anymore. We're dividing by 10, so things are going to get smaller. First thing, 1.32. The 1, the 3, and the 2 all need to get 10 times smaller. They're going to become 10 times smaller, which means they're going to jump one column to the right. So, here we go. The 2 jumps, the 3 jumps, and the 1 jumps. And we end up with 0.132. That's fine. It's way better to do that. 0.132. Like I said before, some people just go 0.132, and that's when you're very confident with numbers, but that's better. 0.132, not too hard. 205.4 divided by 100. The first thing we need to do is write the number in the correct columns. Hopefully you can see that. And you'll see we've got a 0 here again that we're going to have to think about. Every one of those digits, except the 0, is going to become 100 times smaller. Although it's going to look like the 0 becomes 100 times smaller, it doesn't really. Here we go. We need to take each digit and make it 100 times smaller. The 4 needs to jump once. That's 10 times smaller. Another 10 times smaller, which is 100 times smaller. The 5, 10 times smaller, 100 times smaller. The 0, yes, if you spotted the pattern, you can make it jump twice and put it there now. It doesn't really jump there. It's just that there's nothing there. There's nothing there really either, is there? Just a 0, which is nothing. So let's look at the 2. The 2 jumps once, jumps twice. Now, if we took this grid away, we'd have a bit of a problem, because it would look at it like 2.54, and it's not. It's 2.054. There's nothing there. So that's where that 0 comes in. We need to put it in. If you feel more comfortable just jumping the 0 as well, that's great. Now, some of you at this point are starting to think to yourself, well, can't I just move the decimal point? Well, no, you can't. Decimal point doesn't move. I know it looks like it does, But if somebody teaches you to move the decimal point, it will make your understanding of numbers that much more difficult. So if it looks to you like the decimal point is moving, but you understand that it's not really, that's great. This tutorial is about getting you to really understand how to do this. It's not about tricks and quick methods. Once you've really understood this, once you've really got a good grip on it, then you can start doing stuff like that. But at the moment, just follow what I'm doing. 2.054. 4.7 divided by 100. There we go. There's 4.7. You agree? 4.7 up here. Looks like that. The 7 needs to jump how many columns? 2, because it's going to become 10 times bigger, smaller, sorry, and 10 times smaller again. The 4 needs to jump from the 1's column to the 10's column. That's 10 times smaller, and another 10 times smaller. And we end up with point, oh dear, again, it looks like that 0, it looks like a 0.47, but there is nothing here. We need to put that in, or else when we take this grid away, our answer will be wrong. So we put a 0 in there. 0.047. Yep, and you know what I'm going to say next. You should actually put a 0 in there too. Great. 0.047. 1.357 times 100. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking to yourself, why do I have to do this one at a time? Well, you don't. This is just so you understand what's happening. You might say, can't I just take all of these and do it in one go? And the answer is, yeah, of course you can. 1.357, that's going to jump 2 columns, that's going to jump 2 columns, that's going to jump 2 columns. So is that. And there we go. Answer 135.7. Now, at this point in the video, for some of you, it might have been quite a lot of learning. Others, it might have been a bit easier. You need to decide on whether you really understood that. And if you had some problems, don't go any further. Go back and watch up to this point again and again and again until you get it. If you think you're ready to try a few examples, great, we can carry on. You might want to take a break first, go and have something to eat or a glass of water, have a walk around, get your brain working again, get your pencils, pens, paper or whiteboards, markers, and then come back and we'll carry on. So right now, pause this video, get ready, and when you're ready to continue, just resume. Right, I've got some examples to do. What I'll do is I'll put the example up on the screen. You then pause until you're ready to mark it and press continue. So you're just going to be pausing and continue unless you're super fast. First one is 0.5 times 10. Pause the video, and when you're ready to mark, just resume. The answer is 5 or 5.0. Ready for the next one. 4.6 divided by 10. Pause the video until you are ready to mark. The answer is 0.46. 0.04 times 10. Pause the video. When you're ready, just carry on. 0.4. 1.34 times 100. Pause the video, and when you're ready to continue, just do that. 134, or you could have put 134.0. It's up to you. 0.03 times 10. Pause the video until you're ready. 0.3. 24.1 divided by 100. Pause the video until you're ready. 0.241. 0.27 divided by 10. Pause the video until you're ready. 0.027. 4.7 times 100. Pause the video. Continue when you're ready. 470 or 470.0. Both of those are equally correct. The one shows the fractions, the one doesn't because there aren't any. 8.7 divided by 100. Pause the video and resume when ready. 0.087. 0.402 times 100. Pause and continue when ready. 40.2. 106 divided by 100. Pause the video again. When you're ready, continue. 1.06. 10.3 times 100. Once again, pause until you're ready. 1030 or 1030.0. Again, pretty much the same thing. 0.076 times 100. Pause the video until you're ready to mark. 7.6. 0.509 times 100. Pause and continue when you're ready. 50.9. Just incidentally, if you had a 0 here, you've made that 0 jump to, it's unnecessary. That 0 doesn't mean anything. It's not doing any job at all. 230.4 divided by 100. Pause. Continue when ready. 2.304. 6 divided by 100. Pause and continue when ready. 0.06. 0.048 times 1000. Pause the video, get your answer, continue when you're ready to mark. 48 or 48.0. Both of those are fine. 2,407 divided by 1,000. Oh, this is new. We're now dividing by 1,000. We've only done 10 and 100 so far, but I'm pretty sure you've spotted the way it works. When you divide a number by 1,000, it becomes 10 times smaller, and then another 10 times smaller, and then another 10 times smaller. So pause the video until you're ready to mark, and then resume. 2.407. 306 divided by 100. Pause the video, continue when ready. 3.06. 78 divided by 1,000. Another 1,000. Right, pause the video until you're ready to mark. 0.078. Well done. That was a lot of hard work. If you didn't get all of those correct, you might want to watch the whole video again, do all of the exercises again. It's up to you. But it's a very good way of making sure that you have absolutely mastered this. I hope this helped you. And remember, the videos are designed to be watched over and over and over again.